The summons arrived without ceremony. Dr. Elias Ward was standing at the observation window of Orbital Station Aegis, watching Earth rotate beneath him, blue, alive, and possibly fragile, when his wrist implant chimed once. Not twice. Not urgent. Just enough to demand attention. Galactic Concord Directive. Mandatory attendance required. Subject: Final arbitration. Elias closed his eyes for a brief moment. Final was not a word the Concord used lightly. Behind him, the station hummed with ordinary life. Engineers argued over diagnostics. A technician laughed too loudly. Somewhere down the corridor, a child was crying, the sound thinned through reinforced bulkheads. Humanity still believed tomorrow was guaranteed. He turned back to the display and opened the full packet. Coordinates. Time window. Diplomatic immunity clauses written with surgical precision. No pleasantries. No congratulations for 70 years of peaceful cooperation. They don't send fleets for arbitration, Elias murmured. The station's tactical feed flickered to life on a secondary pane without being asked. His implant already knew what his mind feared. Red vectors blinked into existence beyond the heliopause. Massive formations, disciplined, unmistakably Concord. Someone behind him cleared their throat. Sir? Elias turned. Commander Hannah Reyes stood rigid, her uniform immaculate, eyes betraying nothing. She didn't need to explain. How many? Elias asked. Enough, she said. They're calling it a security realignment. Elias let out a slow breath. Of course they are. For decades, humanity had been labeled the reasonable species. Cooperative. Measured. Predictable. When the Concord demanded limits on expansion, Earth agreed. When they insisted on weapons inspections, Earth complied. When elder species vetoed human AI research, Earth shelved entire fields without protest. It wasn't fear that drove those choices. It was calculation. Elias remembered the first contact broadcasts, the celebrations, the speeches filled with hope and trembling pride. He'd been younger then, still naive enough to believe that shared intelligence naturally led to shared respect. Instead, humanity had earned something else entirely. Permission. Council wants you planetside, Reyes said. Immediately. Of course they do. Elias straightened his jacket. Prep my shuttle. As he walked the corridor toward the hangar, the walls shifted subtly. Security layers engaged. Not visible to civilians. Never visible. Humanity had learned early that strength did not need to announce itself. The shuttle ride down was silent. Earth filled the viewport, growing larger with every second. Elias watched continents slide into view, borders invisible from orbit, conflicts small and human. He wondered how many people below felt the weight pressing in from the stars. The Emergency Global Council convened within the hour. Holographic seats flared to life around the chamber, leaders from every bloc and nation forming a fractured circle. No one bothered with formalities. They're accusing us of violations, one delegate snapped. Weapons development. AI militarization. That's impossible, another said. They monitor everything. Elias raised a hand, and the room quieted. Not because of authority, but familiarity. He had stood in this chamber too many times during crises that had thankfully resolved with signatures instead of blood. They don't need us to be guilty, Elias said evenly. They need us to be inconvenient. A murmur rippled through the chamber. They're afraid, someone said, disbelief edging their voice. No, Elias replied. They're cautious. That's worse. A projection flared between them, Concord legal language, dense and merciless. The ultimatum hadn't been formally delivered yet, but its shadow already filled the room. What do they want? A counselor asked. Elias didn't answer immediately. He looked at Earth rotating slowly beneath the chamber's transparent floor. At cities lit like constellations. At oceans that had never known silence. They want submission, he said at last. And the illusion of consent. Silence followed. Heavy. Final. After the session dissolved, Elias didn't return to his office. Instead, he walked alone through the restricted levels beneath the council complex. No guards. No escort. The systems recognized him, doors parting soundlessly as he passed. He stopped once. A sealed corridor branched off to his left. No signage. No markings. Only a thin line of light along the floor and a designation embedded into the wall: neutral, forgettable. Archival contingency node. Elias stared at it longer than he meant to. He remembered long nights running simulations that never ended well. Remembered telling himself they were academic exercises. Insurance. Nothing more. We will never need this, he had believed. He turned away. When he emerged back into the light, his shuttle was waiting. A diplomatic vessel this time, sleek, unarmed by Concord standards, visibly compliant. The kind of ship that reassured others it posed no threat. Commander Reyes met him at the ramp. "Sir," she said quietly, "long-range sensors just picked up additional activations." Elias paused. "Human?" She nodded once. "Not fleets. Not formations. Just signatures waking up across deep space like held breaths finally released." "Do not escalate," Elias said. "Not unless I say so." "Yes, sir." As the shuttle lifted, Earth fell away beneath him once more. Smaller now. Distant. Still home. Elias folded his hands in his lap and stared forward as the stars stretched into lines. He felt no anger. No fear. Only a familiar, heavy certainty settling into place. Humanity had chosen patience for a very long time. And patience, he knew, had limits. Elias felt it the moment the diplomatic shuttle crossed the station's outer boundary. Gravity adjusted in shallow increments, artificial and deliberate, like the station was testing how much discomfort a body would tolerate without complaint. Outside the viewport, the Spire stretched across space in layered rings and jagged pylons, its architecture less about function than dominance. No windows. No visible transit lanes. Everything about it said observe, never be observed. The docking clamps locked with a muted thud. A sterile voice filled the cabin. "Human delegation, proceed along designated route. Deviations will be logged." Elias stood alone as the hatch opened. No escort from Earth. No guards. The Concorde preferred its visitors unarmed and isolated. The corridor beyond was wide enough to swallow a parade. The walls shimmered faintly, shifting color in slow, predatory waves. Elias walked at a measured pace, boots echoing just enough to remind him how small one person sounded in a place like this. The assembly chamber waited at the corridor's end. It was a vast amphitheater carved into the station's core, tiered platforms rising in concentric arcs. Species from across the Concorde occupied their assigned levels, each elevation carefully calculated. Older, founding civilizations sat higher. Newer members lower. Humanity's platform rested near the base, not the lowest, but close enough to make the message unmistakable. As Elias took his place, a ripple of attention moved through the chamber. Not curiosity. Appraisal. At the highest tier, a figure shifted forward. High Executor Vortak. The Car Dominion leader was massive even by alien standards, his armored exoskeleton etched with symbols of rank and conquest. Multiple eyes focused on Elias at once, unblinking. "Proceed," Vortak said. The chamber darkened. A holographic display ignited above the central floor, filling with rotating schematics, intercepted transmissions, fragmented footage. Data without context, carefully curated. "Humanity stands accused," Vortak intoned, "of violating Concorde military accords. Unauthorized weapons research. Prohibited AI integration. Covert fleet mobilization." A low murmur spread through the assembly. Elias did not speak. Vortak continued. "These actions constitute a destabilizing threat. The Concorde will not tolerate escalation from a species it elevated in good faith." Elias stepped forward when the floor recognized him. "With respect," he said calmly, "none of what you've presented constitutes proof." Several delegates stiffened. Direct contradiction was rare. These materials lack verification, Elias continued. No chain of custody. No independent review. If humanity has violated Concord law, we request transparent arbitration. Vorthak's mandibles flexed, something like amusement. You mistake this forum for a court. It is one, Elias replied. Or it was meant to be. Silence followed. Heavy. Uncomfortable. From the corner of his vision, Elias saw other species watching, not him, but Vorthak. Measuring his response. You were admitted under supervision, Vorthak said. Not equality. The Concord does not owe explanations to those it restrains. Elias nodded once. Then say what this truly is. Vorthak leaned forward. The display vanished. This is prevention. The word echoed longer than it should have. Humanity's growth curve is notable, Vorthak said. You adapt quickly? Too quickly. Species like yours do not remain predictable. We have honored every restriction imposed on us, Elias said. Yes, Vorthak agreed. That is precisely the concern. A few delegates shifted uneasily. Compliance is a choice, Vorthak continued. And choices change. Elias felt the truth settle into place. This had never been about violations. It was about potential. What are your terms? Elias asked. Vorthak did not hesitate. Immediate dismantling of orbital defenses. Transfer of all advanced propulsion and AI research to Concord custody. Permanent peacekeeping presence on Earth. Occupation, dressed in polite language. And if we refuse? Elias asked, though he already knew. Vorthak's eyes narrowed. Then Earth will be neutralized as a destabilizing variable. The chamber held its breath. Elias did not raise his voice. You would sterilize a populated world based on projection. We would secure the galaxy, Vorthak corrected. Elias scanned the assembly. And the rest of you? No one met his gaze. Silence, once again, was the answer. The session adjourned moments later. No vote. No discussion. Elias was escorted, not forcibly, but firmly, into a side corridor that peeled away from the main chamber. Vorthak followed. The private chamber was smaller, dimmer. The walls absorbed sound completely. No recordings. No witnesses. You disappoint me, Vorthak said. I expected gratitude. For extinction? Elias asked. For survival, Vorthak replied. Under guidance. Elias folded his hands behind his back. You're afraid of us. Vorthak laughed, a harsh, grating sound. Fear is for equals. You are an anomaly. Then why summon me? Elias asked. Why pretend this was negotiation? Because symbols matter, Vorthak said. The galaxy will remember that humanity was offered mercy. And if we decline? Then it will remember your defiance. Elias studied the alien before him. You've already moved your fleets. Vorthak did not deny it. Of course. Then allow me one courtesy, Elias said. A final address. Let me explain our decision. Vorthak considered him for a long moment. You wish to beg publicly. I wish to speak honestly, Elias said. A pause. Then Vorthak inclined his head. Very well. The galaxy will watch. Elias turned to leave. As the doors slid shut behind him, his implant pulsed softly. A silent notification, invisible to Concord sensors. Sol perimeter, firing solutions acquired. Elias did not slow his pace. Peace, he realized, had already been answered. All that remained was how humanity would respond. The transmission delay was barely noticeable, but Elias felt every fraction of a second as the channel opened. Earth filled the forward display, first the council chamber, then dozens of auxiliary feeds as the broadcast was mirrored across the planet. Cities. Refugee hubs. Military command centers. Ordinary living rooms where people had paused their lives without knowing why their chests felt tight. Elias stood alone in the diplomatic chamber aboard Horizon Spire, hands clasped at his back, posture relaxed by long habit. "People of Earth," he said, voice steady, unamplified by theatrics. "I will be direct." He outlined the Concord's accusations without embellishment. The alleged violations. The proposed remedies. The consequences of refusal. No rhetoric. No dramatization. Just facts, arranged like pieces on a table. As the words reached home, the feeds changed. Shock in some faces. Anger in others. A few expressions hardened into something colder. One counselor broke protocol. "They can't do this." "They can," Elias replied. "And they intend to." Another voice followed, sharper. "Then we fight." Elias shook his head slightly. "That is not the question before us." He let the silence stretch. He knew how uncomfortable it was. He'd learned long ago that silence forced people to confront their own thoughts instead of reacting to his. "They demand compliance that would leave us defenseless," Elias continued. "Not today. Permanently. They promise peace in exchange for dependency." A murmur rippled through the chamber. "They call it stability," Elias said. "I call it erasure." A civilian feed cut in uninvited, an older woman, eyes rimmed red, voice trembling but firm. "If we say yes," she asked, "what happens next year? Or the year after that?" Elias met her gaze through the screen. "They will ask for more." Another feed appeared. A uniformed officer. "And if we refuse?" Elias did not answer immediately. He remembered the sealed corridor beneath the council complex. The simulations that had ended in ash-filled skies and silent oceans. He remembered promising himself they were theoretical. "If we refuse," he said finally, "they will act." The council chamber erupted. Arguments layered over one another. Fear clashed with defiance. Calculations collided with emotion. Elias waited. When the noise subsided, he spoke again. "This decision cannot be mine alone. Nor the council's. It belongs to all of us." A formal motion was raised. Not to authorize war. Not to escalate. Only a single question, stripped of politics. Do we accept permanent subjugation to avoid immediate destruction? The vote unfolded faster than Elias expected. Region by region. Block by block. No unanimity at first, then momentum. Not born of rage, but clarity. The final tally appeared on the display. Rejected. No cheers followed. No applause. Just a collective exhale, as if a weight had been acknowledged at last. Elias nodded once. "Then our answer is given." A senior counselor leaned forward. "What happens now?" Elias turned back toward the camera. "Now I ask for time." "For what?" someone demanded. "One final address," Elias said. "To the Concord." The chamber stilled. "They won't negotiate," a counselor said. "I'm not asking them to," Elias replied. "I'm asking them to listen." The authorization passed without dissent. Elias closed the channel and leaned against the cold wall of the chamber. For the first time since arriving at Horizon Spire, his composure cracked. Just slightly. A breath held too long escaped his lungs. His implant pulsed. Contingency authorization available. Elias did not open it. Instead, he requested reconnection to the assembly. Vordak appeared on the far display, his posture relaxed, his expression satisfied. "You have reached a decision," the High Executor said. "Yes," Elias replied. "But before we answer, I request the courtesy you offered. A final address." Vordak's mandibles shifted. "The galaxy is already watching." "Then let them," Elias said. "Hear why." A pause. Calculated. Vordak saw no risk in words. "Granted," he said. "Make it brief." The channel widened. The assembly chamber reappeared, filled once more with watching eyes. Species ancient and young. Allies and opportunists. Observers who would later claim they had always known how this would end. Elias stepped forward. He did not begin with accusation. For 70 years, he said, humanity has chosen restraint. Not because we lacked alternatives, but because we believed cooperation was stronger than dominance. Some delegates shifted. We limited our expansion. We opened our research. We accepted oversight that no other species here would tolerate today. Vorthak watched, unimpressed. We did this, Elias continued, because we believed the Concord existed to prevent fear from ruling the galaxy. He paused. We were wrong. A ripple passed through the chamber. You are not afraid of what we've done, Elias said. You are afraid of what we might become. Vorthak rose to his full height. Careful, human. Elias met his gaze. We have been. He took a breath and finally opened the waiting authorization. The system responded instantly. Project Other Side, status, active. Final confirmation required. Elias did not look away from the assembly as the data streamed silently through secured channels. We came here prepared to surrender our future, he said. If it meant survival. Behind Vorthak, sensors began to spike. Consoles lit with alerts. Delegates murmured as unfamiliar readings appeared on their displays, anomalies at first, then patterns. But survival without agency, Elias said quietly, is not peace. Vorthak turned, his confidence flickering for the first time. What have you done? Elias straightened. He pressed his thumb against the final confirmation. Chosen, he said, not to disappear. Across the galaxy, things long hidden began to wake. And for the first time since humanity joined the stars, the Concord realized the line had been crossed, not by aggression, but by refusal. The chamber went quiet in a way that made every heartbeat audible. Not silence born of courtesy, but of anticipation. Every eye, alien and human, focused on Elias as he stepped forward, calm and deliberate, voice steady. For 70 years, he began, humanity has pursued peace, compliance, and cooperation. We have honored every treaty. We have limited our growth. We have shared knowledge when asked, held back when required, and endured scrutiny few could imagine. We did not do this because we were weak. We did it because we believed in restraint. Some delegates shifted in disbelief. They had expected pleas, tears, excuses. Not this measured declaration. But restraint, Elias continued, is not surrender. And patience is not weakness. The Concord has misread us, underestimated us, and misrepresented us. Today, the galaxy will see why. He paused. A flicker passed through the room as his implant pulsed. Across space, beyond the Sol system, satellites and stealth ships began to decloak. 1. 2. Dozens. Hundreds. Human fleets, hidden for decades under layers of deep space camouflage and contingency protocols, revealed themselves silently, their geometry precise, their positions deliberate. They were not threatening yet. They simply existed, untouchable, undeniable. Vorthak's multiple eyes widened, each reflecting a human vessel, a precision-engineered warship built not to kill recklessly, but to neutralize. Sensors flared red, systems in panic. The Concord's centuries of confidence began to crumble. You should not have underestimated us, Elias said softly, almost to himself. Then louder. We tried peace. We showed patience. We endured your scrutiny. And still, you labeled us a threat. Today, you will witness the other side of humanity. At his command, human AI systems, dormant yet active within the fleets, executed calculated maneuvers. They disabled Concord weapon arrays, disrupted targeting systems, and intercepted communications without firing a single shot. Alien officers scrambled, shouting orders that were instantly rendered moot. Every movement of humanity's fleets was surgical, measured, precise, designed to incapacitate, not destroy. Vorthak slammed a clawed hand against the console. This is impossible! These vessels, these calculations, they shouldn't exist. They exist, Elias said, voice steady. Because we built them. In silence. With foresight. To ensure survival. Not conquest. You forced our hand, High Executor. Not with threats alone, but with the refusal to understand us. The Assembly's murmurs turned to shock as every monitoring screen filled with live feeds from human positions throughout the Sol perimeter and beyond. Alien sensors had never been calibrated for such coordination. Every anomaly confirmed the truth. Humanity had always prepared. Humanity had always anticipated. Elias raised his hand. A sequence of commands transmitted simultaneously to every fleet. Concord fleets, vast in number and experience, were now effectively paralyzed, unable to fire, unable to maneuver, unable to respond to decades-old tactics they believed unassailable. You speak of peace, Vordhak hissed, his tone sharp with disbelief. And yet you do not mistake restraint for inaction, Elias interrupted. We have chosen our moment carefully. Not for vengeance, but for survival. Not for conquest, but for proof. You believed we would yield. You believed we could be bent to your expectations. That was your mistake. The Assembly was in chaos. Species who had long looked down on humanity now stared, mouths agape. Even those aligned with the Concord could not deny the precision, the control, the intelligence manifest in every move. Elias turned back to the holographic feed. We have shown patience, but patience has limits. We honor peace. We value life. But we will defend ourselves, and Earth, against erasure. He let silence hang again, letting it sink into every consciousness present. Then he added quietly, and now, the galaxy knows the consequences of misjudging us. The Concord fleets did not strike. They could not. Every weapon system, every targeting node, every launch sequence had been neutralized before it could be engaged. The very calculus of war had been rewritten in favor of humanity without a single life lost, Concord or human. Vordhak recoiled, his arrogance stripped away in moments, replaced by raw fear. You've anticipated everything, he said. Every protocol, every fail-safe, everything. Elias nodded. We anticipated the moment we were no longer seen as equals. And we prepared. Not for pride. Not for glory. But because survival is non-negotiable. A faint murmur rippled across human command centers now displayed across the chamber. Pilots, technicians, and AI operators coordinated seamlessly, moving with silent precision. Every action emphasized a single principle. We do not attack unless we must. We incapacitate, neutralize, demonstrate capability. Humanity's other side was not chaos. It was disciplined, controlled, and terrifying to those who had never imagined restraint could be so deadly. The Assembly, once a place of polished arrogance, was silent. Even the most senior delegates of other species could only gape, absorbing the reality. Humanity had never been weak. They had only waited. Elias let his gaze sweep over the entire chamber. This, he said softly, almost to himself, is the other side of humanity. We tried peace. And we will continue to offer it, but never at the cost of our existence. Vordhak staggered back, claws grasping at consoles as if they might hold him upright. And now you, he began. Elias cut him off. Now we choose survival. Nothing more. Nothing less. In the orbital feeds, Concord command nodes shut down under the weight of precision strikes designed to avoid unnecessary destruction. One by one, weapon platforms, sensor arrays, and fleets lost functionality, all without a single life lost. Humanity's answer was devastating yet deliberate, controlled superiority, a display of absolute capability restrained by ethics. The room fell into stunned silence, the kind that follows the impossible becoming reality. Some species stared at the human display as if seeing a new law of the universe. Others whispered, recalculating everything they thought they knew about the galaxy. Elias stepped back from the edge of the platform, his expression calm, almost tired. The decision, the revelation, the demonstration, each piece carefully executed, every calculation precise, every warning made clear. He turned finally to the camera, his final message to the galaxy. Humanity was never weak. We were patient. We were measured. We were restrained. But the moment survival is threatened, do not mistake kindness for fear. Do not mistake silence for weakness. And do not force humanity to show you the other side again. The screens went dark one by one. Vorthak's platform flickered, the High Executor's image fading, his fleet incapacitated. The assembly dissolved into whispered calculations, stunned realizations, and careful reassessments. Elias did not smile. There was no triumph in his eyes, only solemnity, responsibility, and the quiet weight of knowing that humanity had revealed its full strength. Outside, beyond the Spire and the Sol system, humanity's fleets returned to their hidden positions, precise, undetected, yet now forever acknowledged. The galaxy would remember. And so would the Concord. Survival had been secured. The lesson had been delivered. The other side of humanity had finally been shown.